Alrighty, so we're going to go ahead and skin this now with the flexible plywood wrap on here. So what you're going to do is, in your box, you would have received an envelope like this, and it's just a little safety envelope I'm using to protect the skin for shipping. So we can go ahead and open that up, and we are going to pull the skin sheet out. Now, word of caution, do not try to just bend this sheet. It will snap if you bend it in a particular point location. It's designed to wrap smoothly around this curve, and that's all the bend you want to give it. So do not try to flex it when you get it out. You will snap it, and then we got to send you a new one and start all over. So obviously you can see one side has no engraving, and the cuts are much finer, and then the other side you can see the cuts are wider, and then you have these lines and this edge line around it that just kind of gives it some cool detail. So this is our outside of our skin. So this is the side that'll be facing out. Now, as you can see, we've got a few holes here, and those holes are going to correspond to these square nut cutouts all around the base. And so the way you want to do this is you want to start in the back, top, work down, and then wrap it around. So it takes a little time. Please take your time. The last thing you want to do is break this piece. And it will happen if you don't take your time. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by doing these upper two spots. So I'm going to put a couple of nuts in here. And then we're going to take our arm and we're going to lay it here. We're going to get a couple of washers. Take our skin, I mean. And we're just going to kind of put it through there, look around the bottom side and get your nut, get everything lined up. And we go. Now, you can see that this piece can slide back and forth on there. So what you're trying to do is just line it up in the center. And I do that by looking how much is hanging over the back arm piece right here. You can see, you can judge really well how much that is there. Now, I don't want to really tighten these screws. I'm just taking the slop out, but they still have the ability to wiggle around a little because this needs to swing as we start to wrap it, because it kind of has to all fit into place before we want to tighten it. Okay, so that said, I'm going to kind of pick it up. Now what we're going to do is we need to feed a couple of nuts into these two and then put in these two screws. It's kind of tough, and be careful, if you rotate the part, then these nuts will tend to slip out if you rotate the skin. So that happens, I've had that happen many times. So we just go back and fix it. What you can kind of do is you can loosen them up a little and kind of fit them back through. If you have to, well, it looks like I'm just going to have to take them off and start all over again. What I'll do is I'll take one of them out and I'll leave one of them in. And that'll let me just kind of slide the one that's still there in from the side. And then I can fish the other one back in. Alright, let's try that again. Okay. Well, I'm going to work leaving it sitting here, because when I pick it up, it's usually I would pick it up and put it in my lap and work with it in my lap. It makes it a lot easier, but because we're doing this on video, I'm going to leave it sitting on the table. So obviously, the two corresponding slots for these, I'm going to slide a couple of nuts in there. You know what, I'm going to do them one at a time so I don't shake it loose on accident. So, and what you're going to do is you just want to kind of put a finger on each side of that hole and kind of push the skin down to get everything lined up, and then slightly roll that screw in there. Now don't tighten it down, leave it pretty loose until we get them all in. Gonna need some more of these nuts and screws. Alright, now we'll go for this side. Again, finger on each side, kind of putting even pressure. Kind of fiddle. Sometimes you got to loosen the other one a little more. Run it in there. Oh, I lost my nut. Where'd it go? Ay, ay, ay. There we go. Okay, so we're just going to kind of snug those down. You see I'm just kind of lightly pushing out here to bring this down and around. Now this is where it starts to get a little scary, as you're going to have to bring these up and around. So I'm going to put a nut in this side and get a screw ready. And then I'm just going to kind of start from the back and just kind of roll it up on there. You don't want to put any crease in it, you just want to roll it into place. Get one side. Now we're going to come over here and do the other side. Don't worry about it being all too perfectly square and everything like that. Once we get it on, then we'll mess with lining everything up and making sure everything is at the point we want it to be. Again, I'm not going to tighten those, I'm just going to bring them in snug. Now these ones are a bit of a little more trouble because now you're closing everything off. So what I tend to do is just put a nut right in here, like that. I'll put a nut right in here, like this. Now this one is a little tougher because you don't have a hole to hook your screw in. So what you kind of do is just roll this over and just kind of let it catch. Just going to try to catch it under there. Be careful, it'll want to pop out. Now that once you got one on there, kind of holds everything in place for the other one. And we're leaving these pretty loose. I'm just doing it enough to get the threads of the screw to start because we got to bring in the other side. So now that we got that, now we can kind of take this other side and flex it down and tuck it under. And then once they're both under, then as we pull these screws down, they'll kind of pull those two faces down flush and they'll come together. Okay. Alright. Kind of make sure they're lined up. And what I tend to do is I tend to just work any extra slack that might be in this little part kind of up towards the front just to get this to close really well. Okay. Now, you're going to notice that this lip in here, it may be up and down. It may not be equally spaced all the way around. And so what we're going to do about that is if you are building an arm to just the arm kit, you do not have the base on the bottom, this is as far as we're going to take it. So what you can do now is, now you can go back, center up this piece, kind of tighten those down, come down here, you know, adjust these nuts up and down, kind of work this whole piece until everything's you want, and go ahead and tighten all these screws down. So once you've tightened these skin screws down, that'll lock the skin down, and you're basically done with the arm. To attach this arm to the base for rotating, we actually want to leave all these screws loose for now, because what we do is once this is on the base, we actually pull this skirt down to the base and create kind of a bearing surface. It's what helps stabilize the arm against the base. So if you're building the arm all the way to the display arm with a base, go ahead and leave all these, you know, loose for now, not totally tightened, and we will tighten them later. So that is going to wrap up the assembly of the entire Roy arm. Like I said, if you're just got an arm kit, you're done. Go figure out some fun stuff to plug it into, and away you go. I tend to label all these with a little piece of tape or something like that, and I do it simply by plugging each one of these into a servo tester or a radio control and moving it and seeing which finger moves and then labeling the wire. Once they're all down at the bottom, I label them up that way. So, again, if this is as far as you're going with this kit, I appreciate it. I hope you have had fun building the arm to this point, and if we're taking it all the way to a display, click on to the next video and we'll put the base together.